Hi there, I'm Rashonda. I'm the creator of this YouTube channel as well as the artbyro.com website where you can find over 200 art and drawing tutorials, so don't forget to check that out. But first, watch the video. Today I'm going to be drawing an owl. I'll show you step by step how I do this one. Of course, there's many different ways that you can draw these. I'm going to show you just one of the ways, and I'll be doing mine on artist trading cards today. If you're not familiar with what those are, check out the description box. There's a link in there that'll help you with that. And let's go ahead and go on over to the art studio and get started. In this video, I'm going to be making an owl. If you check out the artbyro.com website, there's over 200 art and drawing tutorials on there. And in there, there's a step-by-step on drawing owls that shows several different variations of an owl. But I'm going to show you one of those today. So let's start with our basic shapes. We're going to do a circle for the body, and then an oval or a circle for the head, just to get things kind of laid out where we want them to go. You can divide the head to help with placements of the eyes, the beak. Just kind of get everything lined up. So we'll start putting the beak in. I like to draw a tree branch along the bottom for it to sit on, maybe a branch coming up that way. Of course, there's a lot of different ways that you can do this. I'm showing you one way. And like I said, if you check out the website, there's also different variations on there that just to kind of give you some ideas of different designs and styles of drawings to make. So you can kind of pick and choose what you prefer. So now we're gonna start working on the eyes. You want your owl's eyes to be nice and big. Owls are known for having these big eyes. Add some pupils in there. When we start adding in a little bit more details, we'll put some lines down here. This is going to be where the color is going to be. Now we can start adding in some details for the beak. You can erase if you need to. A lot of this will get erased later. But if you need to erase as you go so that you can keep track of where you're at, what's going on, feel free to do that. That's optional. You can choose to erase as you go or wait until later. So now we want to start adding in the details for the body, the head. We need to add some ears yet. So for this guy, I want to do this patch around his eyes. So I want to add some little fur texture here. It's going to come around here, the same up top. On this other side, bring around. So he's going to have this patch of fur that goes around his head like that. And again, this is just one way of doing this. There's a lot of different ways you can make your owls. The ears are going to be up here. And then we'll add some fur up top. The wings are going to be down here. So again, just kind of laying everything out. And then we can go back in and add a little bit nicer detail. So for the wings, I'm going to give this guy a lot of fur texture. That's optional. You can leave it with just some straight lines there. Or you can add the fur. That's up to you, or feathers, or whatever you want to refer to these as. How you do the fur and the texture, whether you add the texture, you don't add the texture, it's going to change the look a little bit. So it just kind of depends on what you're going for. the overall design you want for your owl. So now I can do the ears. Same thing, I want to do some little bit of texture on the ears. Same thing for that one. Bring that down like that. Add a little bit of texture there. And then for the top of his head. So that's pretty much it for the body of this owl. Now we can add in some detail for the branch down here. And we also need to put in his claws down here so it looks like he's gripping onto this branch that he's sitting on. So we'll put that down here. And that doesn't need a ton of detail, just some little oval shapes down there. And then for the tree branch, all we need to do is just add some bumps in here and make it a little bit more uneven. Same thing here. And you can get as detailed as you want with this, that's up to you. I don't need too much detail in it. You could put some little bark texture, some knots, whatever you want to do with that. So now I'm going to use my Sharpie pen and start outlining everything. I typically outline my drawings with black. You can do your drawings however you want. You could use a different color. You could do thin lines, thick lines, whatever your preference is. So I'm literally just going to go right over top of all of these pencil lines with the black. So I will speed this up and be back with you after I get the outline done. The next step is to add some color. After I finished the outlining, I took a block eraser and erased all the pencil lines. And then this is what you're seeing here, is that pencil line all cleaned up. So the next thing I do is to test out my colors on a scrap piece of paper. This is left over from when I cut out my artist trading cards, which is what I'm working on today. I use those little scrap pieces of paper to try out my colors. So what I usually do is I'll pick a couple colors for each area. So for the eyes, I want kind of a greenish yellow color. So what I will do is put down the lightest color first. And then I will take the darker color and add that where I want it. So you'll have to decide how you want your eyes to look, what color you want them to be, where you want your lights and darks. And then typically what I will do is take the lighter color and go back over top of the edges just to blend those colors in. So those ones blend pretty good. For the beak, I have a bright yellow. So I'll put that down first. And of course, there's different ways of doing this. This is how I like to work. You may not like this method, so feel free to try something different. This is just how I like to work. And then while I have the yellow and the orange pulled aside, I'll go ahead and do his feet. Now, if you want your markers to blend, the colors have to be fairly close to each other, and you need to work while they're still wet. So just make sure you're working in sections at a time and not trying to do a big area and letting it dry and then trying to go back and blend it, because it's not going to work. And some colors will need blended a little bit more than others. Oops. Try not to shake it too much. So I'll do the same thing for the tree branch down here. Add in some dark areas, maybe something on that knot. And then the same thing down here. And then for the owl itself, I'll follow the same method with some grays and purples and kind of bluish colors for the fur or feathers. Just adding in the dark so I can do some darker areas where there might be some shadows. This just adds a little bit of depth to the color so it's not so flat. And then what I'll do for the areas that I want to be white, I have a real light gray, and I'll just break up that white a little bit, maybe going around the edges. You can add some textures in there. And then the same thing up here. I want this area to be white. And this is optional. You can just leave it just pure white if you want. It all just depends on what you like, the look you're going for. So now I have my other colors set aside that I'm going to do for the rest of the body, and I'll just keep doing the same thing I've been doing, putting down the lighter color first and then going back over it in some areas to darken up with the darker color. So I think I will go ahead and speed this up, and then I'll be back when I have that done. For the background, I'm basically going to do the same thing. I have 4 different markers set aside. I'm going to do like a galaxy type background. So what I'll do is start with my darkest color up at the top. And I'll pick a spot to stop at for it. Go around the edges carefully. I like these galaxy backgrounds for these. I like how they look. I use it quite a bit. They're fun. I like the colors. They go really well with these owls or something like jack-o'-lanterns. They look good. I've used them quite a bit. So I have these same 4 markers grouped together in my marker shelf so that they're there and I can find them easily. And then I will take my next color, which is a little bit lighter, and I'm going to overlap that where the 2 come together. So kind of the same principle is putting the light color down and then going over top of it, but because I know this is just going to be a solid areas of color, I can just add them in. And then I'm going to go to my next color, which is this dark magenta type color. Same thing, overlap it a little bit. Go over here, overlap a little bit. Sometimes where the colors overlap, you might have to go over it a few times and kind of saturate that paper a little bit so it'll blend. And then for the bottom, I'm just going to take my next color, do the same exact thing, overlap it a little bit. Come over here, overlap it, fill all this in. If you're not familiar with what artist trading cards are, I will put a link in the description that will explain what they are, how to make them, how to cut them out of cardstock. So that's it for that background. Now the last thing I usually do with my drawings is to use this white jelly roll, and I can go over top of some of these marker areas and add some white. Mostly I'm just breaking up these areas of color. I'm not worrying too much about what direction my light source is coming from or anything like that, since this isn't a realistic type drawing. I'm not too worried about that. Could add a little more texture with the white. And this is optional, of course. You can skip the white if you don't like it. It's just putting some little bits of texture in there, some reflections. And then for the background, what I like to do is add some stars in here to make it look like a little bit of a galaxy type of a feel to it. Again, this is optional. And you can add bigger ones, some smaller ones. Change the size of the stars a little bit. And of course you have to decide how few or too many you think will look right. I think that's probably good enough. I think we're gonna call this guy done. I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully you feel inspired to create some of your own artwork. And I will see you next time. Happy creating! Well, that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you feel inspired to draw some of your own owls. If you did, please give this video a like, and also subscribe if you want to get notified of future videos. And I will see you next time. Bye!